Let's continue our conversation with Congressman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, who joins us via telephone from the volunteer state. Marsha, the politics of amnesty. Bipartisanship, we battled the George W. Bush administration about, quote, comprehensive immigration reform. You hear Jeb, I guess at least he's saying what he feels. Your thoughts on the prospects for success in backing amnesty, or whatever you want to call it, and what does that do in terms of conflict within the Republican Party heading into 2016?
Well, first of all, to Governor Bush's comment about being an act of love, well, all you have to do is go read the Houston Chronicle May 24th article, which is titled Crossing Alone, Children Fleeing to U.S. in Shadowy System. You go read that article and you look at the amount of abuse that is taking place in this Office of Refugee Resettlement, the ORR, and you see that it is not an act of love. And I have written Sylvia Burwell not once but twice about this issue and am launching an investigation into the ORR. I think they know that they are under pressure because the director of that office recently resigned. But, J.D., no shelter worker has been prosecuted for sexual abuse of these children, and there is some. It is documented. We know these children have been molested as they've slept. They've been sexually harassed or seduced by staff members. And this is on top of what they have endured when they have been trying to cross illegally into the United States. They report that by the traffickers who are bringing them, they have been sexually abused. You've got 40% of these kids that are self-reporting abuse. So first and foremost of all, no, sir, it is not an act of love. And I think it is of concern to me and so many others that there could be and appears to be, and there is a need to investigate the ORR because of what is transpiring in these facilities, and we're going to stay on that.
And again,
position.
Marsha, I have a copy of one of the letters you wrote to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Again, just to explain to everyone, ORR stands for Office of Refugee Resettlement. In the 2.5 minutes that remain, the political picture, the public policy picture is far from settled. Perhaps a ray of sunlight coming from the third branch of government in a federal court in Pittsburgh the other day. We had Judge Schwab basically saying that elements of Mr. Obama's executive amnesty are unconstitutional. In the 2 minutes that remain, Marsha Blackburn, do you believe the courts will step up to kill the Obama amnesty?
I do, and here's the reason. The judge made a couple of important points. Number one, inaction by Congress does not make unconstitutional executive action constitutional. And second, the point was the executive action goes beyond the prosecutorial discretion provision, and it is legislation. What the president is doing is legislation. It is not discretion. And the court is bound to ensure that the Constitution structural safeguards are preserved. This executive order goes beyond that, and the role cannot be shared with other branches of government any more than the president can share his veto power or Congress can share its power to override the vetoes. And the judge brought that decision forward based on those components. And the judge also made the point that executive amnesty would allow those illegal entrants into the country to gain substantive rights. So this is outside of the separation of powers and the Take Care Clause, and it becomes not discretion but legislation, and he is seeking to override the other branches of government, and he cannot do that. He cannot share those powers.
And we will have to leave it right there. Marsha Blackburn, thank you so much for joining us via telephone from Tennessee.
And Merry Christmas to you. to you, JD.
Merry Christmas to you too, Marsha. Thanks so much. Coming up, believe it or not, some pundits compared President Obama's announcement on Cuba to Ronald Reagan saying, "Tear down this wall." We'll talk about that with Craig Shirley, the Reagan biographer, when we come back.